I did a video not too long ago talking about the fall of Pokemon alt arts in the Sword and Shield era, but there are also some Pokemon alt arts which are quite cheap to pick up in the Sun and Moon era. So in today's video we'll be going through a bunch of alternate arts that are great to pick up right now going into 2024. Now 2024 is going to be an interesting year. I've got an upcoming video where I'll be talking about what my predictions will be going into next year, but right now we're going through alt arts which I think are great pickups ready for the year to come. So let's get into it. Alright guys, so today we're going to take a look at TCG Player at a bunch of Pokemon alt arts from the Sword and Shield era and just a small handful from the Sun and Moon era. Now these are the cheaper end of alt arts. Yeah, we all know about the Gengars and the Umbreons and the Lugias, but today we're going through some what I would call very nice alt arts and ones that have that room to grow, especially after dropping to some of their lowest of lows, which means it's such a great time to get them. Now when we look at the Sun and Moon era, they've had a big boom this year. The Sun and Moon era tag team arts especially have done incredibly well. Some of them are still, you know, not too bad, like not too pricey. Some of them are absolutely ridiculous, like the Latios and Latias and stuff like that. So yeah, there are some big ones, but on the Sword and Shield, a lot of stuff has dropped. So let's jump into the first one. So the first one we're looking at is the Celebi VOR from Fusion Strike. Now Fusion Strike is a good set, to be fair. It's done incredibly well, still products going up. Some of the big top money, you know, alt arts like the Gengar and the Espeon are actually doing well. They're one of the few alt arts from the Sword and Shield era that's actually held their value quite well. I mean, Gengar's still over $200, which is very impressive, especially all the other big arts have been falling. And this Celebi has also been falling, but it's had a little bit of a bounce back. I do feel like this is an absolutely gorgeous card. Not the easiest to pull by any means. Let's take a look at it. So over the past 3 months, this card has dipped from 27 to as low as 21 and is nearly back up to 30, which has done pretty well. We go back over the past year, this card overall has dropped. I mean, it has had a bit of a, bit of a waviness. I mean, it did drop low and then it shot back up to over $30 and then back down again. So I do feel like Celebi shows it's got room to grow. People are a massive fan of this card and they love the artwork and just the whole look of it. I mean, I like it. I highly rate it as well. I do have it in my collection. This is a beautiful, stunning card and I think it's a great pickup. I mean, I picked mine up for about £25 and I think that's a really, really good price to pick up such a nice, alt art, especially from a set as tough as Fusion Strike to get those pulls on. That's what you've got to take into consideration when you look at some of these cards. What sets are they from? Is it going to be easy to get hold of? 9 times out of 10, it isn't going to be easy, as they are alt arts and they are going to be from the Sword and Shield, or especially when we get to the Sun and Moon. But yeah, pretty good one, Celebi. Then we have the Inteleon, another cheap alt art from Fusion Strike. We're not going to be going through all of the cheap alt arts because it's actually quite a lot from all of these Sword and Shield era sets. I've just picked a small few to go through today to give you guys an example of some really good ones to keep an eye out on. Now, of course, buy what you like at the end of the day. Like, don't go and buy these if you don't like the card. I like the look of these cards, or, they're kind of a fan favorite Pokemon, or they're kind of a favorite Pokemon of mine. But I also feel like these are ones that could do well as well, in the long term. So we've got the Inteleon from Fusion Strike, pretty much the same way as a Celebi. It's going to be, it is tough to get. Sets getting more expensive. This card has been it has dropped. I mean, it did drop to like 20 and it's bounced back up slightly, but over the past year it has been going down. Now I do feel like Inteleon isn't necessarily the best art, but I like the art. I like the artwork. I think the artwork's super sweet. I do like Inteleon as well. I do know that a lot of people also like Inteleon. So I mean, if you can get an art for this for $20 or less, I think that's a pretty good deal. And then for finishing off Fusion Strike, we have the Mew V art. Now I like this one. I think this one's better than the VMAX in my opinion. And again, this is super cheap. Mew, big fan favorite. We know how much people love Mew. $27 for this card. And, it was 32. So it did actually drop below 27. It did tick up and it's dropped back down again. Over the past year, this card has just continuously dropped nearly by 50%. So it's quite interesting to see how this card's going to perform in the future. Again, similar to the other two, I feel like this is more of a fan favorite than the other two. But the Celebi and the Mew, in my opinion, are some of the best alt arts in the Sword and Shield era, and they're both from Fusion Strike, which makes it, even more impressive. On top of that, like I say, Fusion Strike's getting more expensive, pull rates are really bad. Hey, look, this could be a good one that you can pick up. Speaking of beautiful alt arts, we have the Beedrill V from Astral Radiance. I think Astral Radiance has some of the nicest artwork for alt arts in any Sword and Shield era set, and they're super cheap. I mean, you got the Machamp. I'm not a huge fan of the Machamp, but the Machamp's the most expensive. Then like the Dialga, Palkia, or the Hisuian Lilligant, Beedrill, even the Sneasler, all of them beautiful artwork and they're pretty cheap. I mean, we looked the other day, The Alg and Palkia is like, what, 25 each? That is ridiculous. And the others are like 20 or less, just like this Beedrill. $18. This is a beautiful card. We actually pulled this recently in the stream as well, which is actually quite cool. If we go back over the past year, look guys, super cheap. It's nearly dropped 50%. It was 34, 35. It was super cheap. Oh, up. Beautiful card. Astral Radiance pull rates are okay. I mean, booster boxes are going up in price. So, you know, to get hold of this will be quite tricky. But look, it's super cheap. I mean, you could pick up like 4 of these alt arts for a price of a booster box. Or even 5 alt arts. That's crazy. Okay, now we're going to look at some Sun and Moon era alt arts. Just a handful, because a lot of them have gone up ridiculously high. So we'll look at the ones that went the opposite. So we have the Rowlet and the Alolan Exeggutor from Unified Minds. Now, Unified Minds is getting expensive, to be honest. It is actually getting expensive. $52 for this card. As you can see from the chart, guys, it has dropped over the past 3 months, you know, from around 65 down to 52. We go back over the past year, it's still up on the year, but it is starting to fall. And we have seen, actually, across the board in the Sun and Moon era cards, especially the arts, over the past 3 months, they have had this drop. So this drop that this Exeggutor has had, some of the others have, some less than others or more than others, but they're still holding quite high values. A lot of them are $200 plus, you know, maybe $150, stuff like that. So the price point of them is quite high. That's why we're looking at more cheaper alternatives people really want. And this is a good one to get for around $50, and it has dropped. I would keep an eye out for any cheap, you know, or cheaper anyway, you know, Sun and Moon era alt arts. I really would, just because they've had a big boom this year. But I think they're going to start to drop, so keep an eye out on these cards in the future, because I think in 2024 a lot more of these alt arts are going to continue to drop. Then we have the Pheromosa and Buzzswole alt art GX from Unbroken Bonds. Again, this one's following a similar trend. I mean, over the past 3 months we've seen the drop from 40 to 35. Doesn't sound like a lot, $5, but hey, it's still a drop. We go back over the past year, it's still up on the year, but not from its highest of highs. We will see this trend, I think, continue going to 2024. I kind of feel like this was kind of a artificial inflated hype of a lot of the Sun and Moon era, from the waifu cards to the full art alt art to the alt art tag teams. It'll be interesting to see what happens in 2024 next year. But I do feel like a lot of these will continue to drop, as you know, there's less interest and less demand for it. And then another Sun and Moon era one, we got one from Cosmic Eclipse. Now we got the Nagandal and Guzzlord GX. Pretty interesting artwork, I must say, but this card is $46, and it has dropped only about $6 over the past 3 months, so not massively, but it's still up upon the year, and it hasn't actually dropped as much as some of the others, from 60 to 46. I mean, still nearly $15, but overall, this is still pretty good. Again, Cosmic, super expensive. I mean, booster boxes are approaching $1,000. So it's interesting to see how well a lot of these cards hold. A lot of more the big alt arts and some of the female trainers have actually gone up and have stayed to be quite well. It's interesting to see if we can get some other alt arts like this that are dropping that we can snatch up, which would be pretty sweet. Alright, we're taking a quick look at some Chill and Rain alt arts. There's quite a few in Chill and Rain. There's actually, I think, the second highest amount of alt arts next to Evolving Skies, which a lot of people sometimes forget about Chill and Rain. And we're looking at the Ice Rider Calyrex V, one of the more cheaper alternatives. I mean, look, $13 for an alt art. I just think that's sweet. I think that's really cool. This card hasn't really done a huge amount over the past 3 months, just kind of dipping and going back up. Over the past year, though, it has dropped again nearly 50%. Even the Blaziken has dropped. I think the Blaziken's dropped 60 plus $70. So a lot of these cards have dropped a fair amount in the Chill and Rain, you know, Sword and Shield era. Chill and Rain, you know, still product is going up in price, but the cards are dropping. Now, you could say these will continue to drop in 2024, but I kind of feel like when things are already this cheap, it's not going to make a huge difference if they continue to drop a little bit more before they start to go up. But I do think it's a really good price just for an alt art from Chill and Rain. Then we have the Tornadus Flexing on Us from Chill and Rain. I actually quite like this alt art. I've never actually pulled it, like ever. $20. This card has dropped a little bit over the past 3 months. We go back over the past year, again, nearly 50, not quite 50%, maybe like 40% has dropped. This is a cool one. I like it. Like I said, never pulled it, and I've opened up a lot of Chill and Rain. So this is quite a nice card. $20. I mean, Chill and Rain does have some good higher value alt arts in the set, from the legendary birds to things like the Zora, and of course the Blaziken. But there are still some really nice alt arts that you can get for an affordable price, and this is definitely one of them. You know, there's a lot of alt arts in Chill and Rain. This one is definitely a good one to pick up, and I think a lot of them are around $20 or less, which is actually, again, not too bad. You know, especially with booster boxes going up in price, pull rates are really poor. You could pick up a few of these alt arts for the cost of a single box. which is definitely worth it. And then another example to remain is the Bliss EV. Again, this is another good fan favorite. It's less than $20. I mean, it's $17. It's gone down over the past 3 months. We go back over the past year, this card was $35. This card has dropped 50%. Meanwhile, Tune and Rain booster boxes are going up and up and up. They're over $150 a box. They will continue to rise. Pull rates are difficult. Remember, a lot of these early Sword and Shield era sets, they had really tough pull rates. So to be getting some of these, you know, would be really tough. You might as well buy them compared to the price of the box. Definitely worth thing to think about. Then we go to Evolving Skies. Now, Evolving Skies is an interesting one because it has the most expensive cards. Well, to be fair, in most recent Pokemon modern history, with the Moonbryon and the Rayquaza and all of the other evolutions, especially the VMAX versions, and to be fair, even the V versions. But we have cards like this Noivern. Beautiful card, beautiful art. $23. There are some actually pretty cheap arts in, you know, Evolving Skies, which you may not think so. You may think, oh, Evolving Skies, it's going to be expensive. Not necessarily. There are some good ones to get out there that are quite cheap. You know, this is a really, really nice card, and the, you know, the pull rates of Evolving Skies is just terrible. Like, it is just terrible. So to get even the Noivern is very, very difficult. So over the past 3 months, it has dropped. It was around 28, and it's just had a big steep drop there. We'll go back over the past year, though. Again, we've seen this card continue to drop. Now, this is actually a card I've talked about in the past about you should keep your eye on to see what happens with the Noivern, because I do feel like it is a card that is nice, but it's tough to get hold of. Evolving Skies is, you know, hanging around $450 a box. Very, very expensive. Polies are very tough. You'll be lucky if you get an OR in like a few boxes, let alone just one. And you can pick up, well, for a price of an Evolving Skies booster box, you could pick up a big hefty chunk of Volt Arts. Even some of the evolutions you could pick up for the price of a single Evolving Skies booster box, which, to be fair, is probably worth just doing. You know, then trying to crack open and hope to pull maybe the Moonbryon, which, you know, the value of the Moonbryon is now probably about a little bit more than the booster box, but not really much more. But for the same price of a booster box, you can get so much more if you just get the single cards, especially the O-Arts. Again, like this Duraludon VMAX, it's a cheap O-Art, you know, from Evolving Skies. Can't really go wrong. $14 for an O-Art from Evolving Skies. There's a few others from this set as well, like the Golurk is another cheap one. And again, some of the other evolutions, because they have dropped in price, like the Leafeon V, Espeon V, Sylveon V, they've pretty much like got by like 30-40%. But a lot of them have dropped over the past year, which is actually quite interesting. And even the big money VMAXs have been going down ever so slightly. Not a huge amount, but they have been dropping. Still, product is on the rise. Single cards are dropping in price. Be interesting to see what happens to a lot of these going into 2024. I mean, this Duraludon, as you can see over the past 3 months, it was $18 down to $14. Over the past year, it was nearly $30. This card has dropped by over 50% in the past year, which is actually crazy. I do like the card. I like most O-Arts, and again, it follows under the same suit. It's, you know, Evolving Skies, tough pull rates to get an O-Art. People just to buy them. So there you have it, guys. Those are some great O-Arts to keep an eye on going into 2024. We didn't cover all of the cheap O-Arts that you can find in the Sword and Shield era. There are some great ones that you can get from sets like Battle Styles. Of course, we looked at Fusion Strike, Silver Tempest, Lost Origin, and even Brilliant Stars have cheap O-Arts. They've all dropped in price due to reprints and kind of the interest and demand a lot of these sets have been dropping as well. I mean, there are some fantastic ones we went through recently where they've fallen out of favor with the market and their prices have dropped, and I think they'll continue to drop going into 2024. We could start seeing some O-Arts sitting around that $10 to $15 mark, which you wouldn't even think of maybe 1 or 2 years ago. So it'd be really interesting to see what's really going to happen to the O-Arts moving forward. The more and more we get into Scarlet and Violet, you would think that a lot of these cards would start to go up in value, but at the moment there's just so much stock around that, you know, it keeps keeping the prices down, which is actually quite interesting. If you made this far into the video, guys, and you've enjoyed it, make sure to smash the like button and make sure you subscribe for more Pokemon content, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you have any of these cards? Which O-Arts are you eyeing up going into 2024? For me, I like to look at the cheaper ones rather than the obviously big top ones like Lugia and Charizard, because we know they've dropped in price. It'll be really interesting to see how these do moving forward. But if you want to know what's been going on with the biggest cards that were made last year and see how well they've done this year, then make sure to click the video on screen right now. If you watch more Pokemon content, guys, of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button. On the road to 10k, guys, let's get there. Alright, guys, that's it from me in this video. As always, you guys are the legends. I'll see you in the next one.